Hi, everyone. In a recent article, I had the opportunity to reach out to three customer experience professionals who I know who were willing to share with us the lessons in customer experience from 2020. They each provided a quote, and that's what we're going to talk about today. One of those people that I reached out to is my friend and colleague, Tabitha Dunn, Chief Customer Officer at Ericsson and CXPA board member. Here's what she had to say.
All the CX expertise and best practices won't help you be successful with driving material change for your people and customers if you aren't able to build a coalition of willing and engaged senior leaders across your company to be your partners. I've seen incredible designs, hard work, and actionable insights fail to gain traction time and again due to that lack of key stakeholder engagement and drive.
Hello, Tabitha Dunn. I'm so excited to talk to you. Thank you for being here with us. And I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jeannie. Hello, everyone out there. I am Tabitha Dunn. I am the Chief Customer Officer at Ericsson. I head up both customer experience and sales excellence globally. And I am excited to talk about customer experience, which I was just realizing this year. I have been leading customer experience practices for 20 years now. So boy, I feel like there is a lot that I can both share and still so much left to learn.
I had a similar realization lately where I used to say almost 20 years. And then I was like, well, no, 2000, that's a pretty clear indicator that it's been exactly 20 years. So, yes,
Yep.
it's and it's come a long way, right? We've seen a lot of changes. But I was so appreciative of you participating in the blog and sharing your thoughts about lessons that we've learned this year, because I think everybody is hopefully, looking back, trying to understand this crazy year we've all been through. And the quote that you offered had a theme that I really appreciated about coalition, about building a coalition within an organization in order to deliver great customer experiences. And I said in the blog, I've seen you do this. I have worked with you, and I think one of your superpowers is building coalitions and getting people to really care about this in a way that not everybody can. And so I'm just curious, what do you think is so important about that? And is that something that all CX teams do, or what can we offer as kind of a lesson in coalition?
I think what's interesting and probably the most challenging part of customer experience leadership is that you have all this responsibility and accountability, but no authority to do the work to really make true, lasting change in the customers and the employees' experience. You really need to build that coalition, and it has to be rebuilt over and over and over again. It's the job is never done. That means you have to convince people that we're on the right path. We should be on it together. This is the right work we need to do. And here's the benefit for all of us involved if we do it. And for many people, that just seems like such a steep hill to climb, and to have to keep climbing it over and over again, I think becomes very frustrating, because maybe you spend more time doing the coalition building and maintaining those connectivities across the business than maybe you get to spend doing the actual CX disciplines that maybe attracted you to the type of jobs in the first place. So I think that's the first big challenge. I'd say the benefit to that, though, is you meet amazing people all across the business. And back to my earlier comment, I learned so much about how our business works, how our customer needs are satisfied, what people really want to see success look like. And so those things really are a big part of what keeps me coming back for more.
Hmm. Yeah, and I love that you said it's about learning about different parts of the business too, and what we actually do for customers throughout the organization, because that's something I've witnessed too, where we sometimes don't even know, right? Like these big, huge companies, we think we understand, and then we're like, whoa, we've got this whole other business unit over here that is delivering a totally different experience. And it's fun to build those partnerships, because you can start seeing those incremental changes too that make that long lasting change, which can be really exciting as well. But I want to underline something you said too, which is that you have to keep doing it. You have to keep building these coalitions over and over, because I think we've both seen this where everybody gets very excited about customer experience in the beginning, and they want to be a part of it, and then it's kind of like, oh, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of heavy lifting, it's a lot of metrics and things that maybe people aren't thinking about when they think about the term customer experience. And so you have to keep building these partnerships. You have to keep involving and engaging these leaders throughout the organization so that they have a vested interest in what's happening. And when I read that and I heard that in your quote, I was, getting my highlighter out, because I think it's really important for people to remember that as leaders in any organization. And, as I reached out to you and Heather and Nancy for quotes on the blog, it did feel like there is this sense of optimism, I think, that's really great, because I think in customer experience, we have to be a little optimistic. And we also, it's kind of a trait, I think, that we bring to most of our roles. We bring this sense of optimism. This year, I think, challenged that optimism in some ways. It challenged the idea that we can fix things for our customers, that we can really look out for them when so much has changed. And Nancy, in her quote, talked about resilience and how important that is, but how it's not about changing everything. It's about really looking at what are the important ways that we can react and anticipate what our customers need in a way that builds resilience for the organization and for our customers. So I'm just wondering about your reaction to that, and if that's your experience as well.
I think that resilience it's a powerful sense of having faith in the future. And I think that if you think about all the things that are changing this year, many of them are really hard, and most of them are being forced, right? It's not something that people sought out. And in some cases, those changes have turned out to be really difficult for people. They've ended up really affecting not just their health and their lives, but their livelihoods and their futures. But for many people, it's caused them to think about the future of work in a different way. And I think that only means that both customer and employee experience are going to be all the more important in the times ahead, because companies are going to have to really take a serious look at doing things differently. And they have to do it differently, not just for their employees, but for their customers. And that, to me, makes it both optimistic and interesting, because you just don't know exactly how those designs and those new experiences are going to turn out. For many people, even if you think about something that many of us experience all the time, which has been going out to restaurants, the thought of how that works today and how it doesn't work in many cases is being radically rethought. Who better to help people do that than experienced professionals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great, great point. And I think that makes me think of things like doctors' waiting rooms, right? Like all these places that were just kind of the norm for a long time. We have to throw that up and, reconfigure it in a totally different way moving forward. And I think I agree. It's both exciting and optimistic and interesting and sometimes a challenging way, right? Like we have some challenges in front of us, but that's okay, because that's what resiliency is all about, is figuring out how do you move forward in a way that's successful for everybody. So that's a really great point. And Heather in the blog, she talked about collaborating with customers and how important that is. And it's funny because I think in customer experience, a lot of times we act like that's super important, but we don't always invest in that. We don't always walk the talk in that in some organizations. And so I'm just curious, what have you learned about collaborating with customers? What are some of the lessons that, you think are important for people to hear?
I think that when you bring customers into the journey with you, and you really make certain that they understand that they're a part of it, for the most part, customers really appreciate that. It means that you're often more transparent than maybe companies traditionally have been comfortable with. But to really truly collaborate doesn't mean saying yes to everything the customers tell you, but instead figuring out, all right, out of everything we learn from you, here are the things we're going to invest in. Here are the things we think are most important to improve. And then we want your help in really making sure that we're successful in the things that we're making a difference in. And, if customers are honest with themselves, they'll find that that's actually a really good experience. I still, occasionally you get customers who are like, no, you should focus on my needs. But for the most part, I've always found that customers really appreciate being a part of that. And they appreciate genuinely being felt like, yes, you listened to me, you learned from what you heard, and then you acted. And that only makes them want to be part of that cycle ongoing, and that makes the experience better for everybody. I would say that, collaboration means also bringing the employee voice in too. And I think that we see that growing in our industry today, where more people are like, oh, that's right. If you're going to go in and make things better from a business perspective and a customer perspective, you should make it better for employees at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a fantastic point, and I think when we look at employees too, sometimes they have the most information, right? Like, they're the ones dealing with customers over and over and over, and if we don't include them in those journey improvements, then we're missing opportunities to really understand how to serve customers better, because they have so much information in their heads and their hearts about this is what works and this is what doesn't. So it's super critical to include their voice as well. So that's a great point about collaboration. And so as we get to the end of this year, we're facing the end of 2020. We're almost there. And we look to 2021. What do you see as far as customer experience and customer expectations and things like that? What do you see for the future?
I would say that more companies are going to be rethinking the future of work, and also what that means for how they can serve their customers. I read an article the other day that talked about how companies that do things like customer service outsourcing, that are there, maybe 60-70% of the people work from home. They're thinking, you know what, maybe everybody can work from home. And other companies are thinking to themselves, maybe we need to completely redesign the way our offices work, and they should be around collaboration and interaction. And that's why you should come to the office, as opposed to there's other ways of working that are better served in a quieter space, like being at home. And I think that it's those types of innovations around the future of work are also going to be, very impactful to what's the future of the customer experience. What do they want and need to see differently, based on what we're learning through this crisis? So every challenge in our lives comes with quite a bit of pain, but it also comes with opportunity for us to learn. And I hope that that's what we really see in 2021, is learning from this and how we can get better together.
Hmm. I love this because really this is a theme that has come out in a couple different ways with different people I've talked to. And I think that there's something really powerful about thinking through, you know what, we're going through a tough time, but we're going to come out with so many amazing, opportunities, lessons, different ways of working, different ways of living. And that's going to serve us longer term than just where we were, maybe. So I think that's a really great way to look at the future and to think about what's next, because there are people who are really challenged this year, and we recognize that too. And I think I don't want to minimize that at all, because of course people have had a tough year. But I really appreciate that you were able to join us, that you were able to share your wisdom, and just thank you for all you do for the CX community as well. You've been really involved with the CXPA board, I know, and you and I have known each other a long time and seen a lot of changes. And you've always been one of those people who's been incredibly generous with both up and coming CX people as well as just customers in general and your fellow colleagues as well. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Jeannie. And you know that I feel the same way. We've had the pleasure of getting a chance to work together, and that is certainly days that I miss very much because your collaboration skills are outstanding. So I've always appreciated that about you. You care so much about making sure that not only are the outcomes successful in your partnership, but you really do make connections and inspire people to be better. So I'm really glad to be a part of this. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, I'm thrilled that we could do this, and thank you for your wisdom. And here's to a wonderful 2021.
Here's to that.